Because future-looking statements are inherently subject to risk and uncertainty, our reminder is that you should make any purchasing decisions or investment decisions based on products that are currently commercially available.
Hello, my name's John Demby. I am a creative strategist here at Salesforce. I have the honor today to spend just a few minutes with you as part of Trailhead DX 2020, coming to you virtually from Fort Worth, Texas. We're going to sprinkle in a little Tableau, and we're going to talk about what Tableau can do when we actually look and explore data. We're going to bring Einstein to the party and look at what Einstein can bring us in the terms of predictions and analytics. Then we're going to get our old friend, the lightning bolt, in to actually show how we can actually access and make those insights accessible. Ultimately, all on the Salesforce.com platform, and especially in the context of work.com. So with all that, please come along and let's get started. So today's journey with COVID-19 is the same. It doesn't matter the industry. It doesn't matter the community. It's all about collecting data, exploring that data, hopefully being able to drive some level of predictions or insight out of that data, then taking that data and visualizing it, which is, of course, the best way to view data. Then from there, granting access and developing insights for those that need to see it, and ultimately giving everybody a platform so they can make key, intelligent, thoughtful decisions going forward. So I found this quote, and I think it's very appropriate because over the last few years, business has really been speeding up, especially with the shift of digital transformation and such. But COVID has just poured the accelerator on. And so when we look at that, we now have to think about in terms of days and hours, not weeks and months. So I'd like you to take away really three things today before we get started into the actual demo. One is that data-driven decisions must include some level of predictive intelligence. If you really want to drive those insightful decisions, they need to understand where you're going and where you're headed to. The second is agility and speed are critical, especially in today, because the ability to make those decisions, really, it's the difference between people's lives, your employees' lives, individuals, and such. And then finally, insights need to be both actionable and accessible. So simply developing the insights are one thing, but being able to put them in front of people who can take action on them is critical. So today we're going to talk about Caroline, who is a data analyst. And so Caroline has been given some information, but she needs to change her cape because she is really a data superhero. So as the data superhero for our company, she's going to take a look at this data, explore it, and try to give the best possible insights to leadership and all involved so that they can begin to make those critical decisions going forward. So let's move on to the demo. Okay, let's get started. So Caroline is going to start her journey in Tableau. In this case, it's Tableau Online. And one of the things that Caroline does a lot in her job is she's always given data to try to figure out what's in the data, what's behind the data. And so today is no different. She's been given some data from the operational team, and they've given her both data around closed stores, open stores, and she's being asked to try to figure that out. So she's going to actually go in, and for purposes to start, she's going to create a brand new workbook, and she's going to open up that data that she's been giving her. It's on a file on her laptop. She's going to pick that file, and then as soon as she picks that file, she wants to actually explore it and try to understand what's in it. And so the first thing that she thinks about is really wanting to look at this data from a geospatial perspective around mapping and things like that. She notices that she's got information about, employee sick days, things like that. So she'll go ahead and bring that in, actually click on the longitude and latitude, create her base map, and then add the store IDs to her detail map. So this is pretty good. This actually tells her all the stores across the country that have currently opened since being closed for COVID-19. But what she really wants to do is the business is keen to protect their employees, protect their customers and such. And so she wants to look at this data and she thinks employee sick days is really the way to go. And so what she's going to do here is she's going to go ahead and grab those employee sick days. She's going to bring that up into the marks card, which allows her to do pre-attentive attributes. She wants to change the color to divergent to really make it pop and stand out a little bit better. So she'll pick the blue-orange divergent. And once she does that, she realizes she needs to flip the color. So she'll do a reverse on that. And now she has a map that actually shows her, based on employee sick days, what locations have had more employee sick days than others. And this seems to kind of follow along with hot spots in the country and such, especially in places like Michigan and the East Coast. But for purposes of today, I've gone ahead and built out the rest of our workbooks that we want to take a look at. So we'll just go ahead and we're going to go ahead and close this one. And as soon as we close it, we'll just tell it that we don't need to save it. And now we're going to go back into that project folder and we're going to open up this workbook that has different slices of this COVID data. So this particular dashboard is just like the one that she built, but it also now includes closed stores. And so, like I said, leadership, most everybody thinks the best way to make these decisions would be based on employee sick days. And so if I go in here and I add the closed stores, I can still see some of the color coming through. It really doesn't tell me much. And then if I completely take the open stores off, I'm back to just blue because I don't have that predictive number of sick days. It's just not in my data. I haven't tried to model it or understand it. So I do have some other attributes in this data that I could look at. So one is per capita COVID-19 cases based on location. So again, once again, I'm looking at this data from an open perspective, and I can see the hot spots that are available around the country. And so maybe I use this information to look at it from a closed perspective. And so I'll just go over here, select my closed stores and uncheck my open stores. And so maybe this is the best I can give our leadership. Maybe I can just say, based on these hot spots, we really don't want to open these locations, but I think there's got to be a better way. So there are some other attributes in this data set. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to look at things like, how much PPE is available. I'm going to look at things like motion sensor doors and, whether or not it's an airport location or whether or not it has a drive-through. And so maybe if I start filtering out on those things, I can get a much cleaner list of things. So first thing is I'm going to take my closed stores out of this. So I just go ahead and unclick closed. I really don't know what to do with the PPE. So I'm not going to really do much with that. I do think that locations that have automatic doors are important. So I'm actually going to take out all those locations that don't have automatic doors. I also think airport locations kind of a misnomer, but for right now, I'll just go ahead and make sure that I keep all of our non-airport locations. Then from there, I think drive-through is probably pretty important because it's a way for people to interact with us. And then finally, I'm going to actually, with outsourced cleaning, that means we get cleaned once a day, where if it's not outsourced, our employees are actually doing all of the cleaning. So I think in that case, not having outsourced cleaning is probably a bonus. And so once I select all that, I've basically got the best I could give in terms of decisions on what we should or shouldn't open from that perspective. And if you look at it, it's a really small subset. So bam, it's now time to think about what I could do with Einstein Analytics, and especially in this case, Einstein Discovery, because I know that if I take this data into Einstein, I can use this data to seed a model, and then I can use that model against my my closed stores. So I take the open store data in there because it's really critical, and I've already brought it here into Einstein. And I'm going to start by creating a story. I don't know if you've ever used Einstein, but it's a wizard-based simple approach. It doesn't require you to be a data scientist. And in this case, I want to minimize And then in particular, I want to minimize my employee sick days. I'm going to leave the rest of it just the same. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next page. It's going to give me an option to do insights or predictions. I need those predictions. That's what I need to be able to decide intelligently what I want to do with these different stores. So I'm going to pick that, and then I could turn the dials on the model, but for right now, I'm going to let Einstein make those decisions for me. So I'm going to go ahead and use the automatic. And now Einstein's going to begin to crank through and look at a lot of things. It's going to look at things like patterns and matches, and it's going to look at different variables and try to decide what variables impact the number of sick days based on these open locations. And what Einstein's doing is what would take a data scientist on your staff maybe weeks or even months to do, to be able to build this model, test it, run it through, test it again. But like I said at the beginning of our presentation, we don't have months or even weeks. We need to get this information quickly. So quickly, it's actually given me some great insights about my data. It talks about the fact that management training is really critical. It talks about tenure is pretty important. But what I want to highlight here is the employee safety training. It actually is found that in some cases, employee safety training actually results in a higher number of employee sick days. And so that may tell me I need to do something about reviewing my training, updating my training, and fine-tuning my training. But in addition to everything here, I can actually go in and I can validate the model. And so there's a couple of things that Einstein's found very quickly. And I can actually look at the evaluation. I can see how it actually is doing with the coefficients. And then ultimately, it brings me to the R code. Now, we don't use R in Einstein, but we do create an R output. Why that's important is for your data scientists to look at the data and do something with it. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and deploy this model. I'm going to take most of the defaults here as I go through this. But why this is important is as I deploy this model, it now becomes available through Tableau, through the Einstein API. I could evaluate a row of information. I could evaluate a bulk set of information. I could also bring the data into Einstein and model it again. But bottom line is now I have a model that I can come to over and over again, and I can fine tune and get that information. So I've run my closed stores against this model, and now I want to go back into Tableau and take that information and do something with it. So I've gone ahead and built a dashboard, a pretty simple dashboard. It has 3 sheets attached to it. And what Einstein has done is it has predicted the number of sick days per store based on different ideas, based on management training, things of that. But Einstein can't predict 0 sick days. And so it really starts somewhere around the 18 range. I know the business has said 30 seems like a good, safe place. So I can pick all of those stores that have been predicted to have 30 or less sick days. And I have the validation check here in Tableau, which is great. And I see this outlier, and I can look at this outlier and I can notice that it is in Albany. Albany is a COVID-19 hotspot still. And so maybe what I want to do is hold that particular store back before I reopen it. So I'm using the power of Tableau to visualize and get me those checks. I'm using the power of Einstein to be able to get me the predictions that I need to give me the insights to move forward. So the last piece is the access and visualization. So what I've done here is I've copied the URL link. And so Tableau with Salesforce has developed a brand new Lightning Web component. So you'll actually hear more of that on the dev channel. But what I've done here in work.com is I've gone ahead and pre-staged a Lightning app page, in this case for the COVID-19 open plan. And so I'm going to go in here, I'm going to go edit this page, and then simply I'm going to go over on the left-hand side. You'll now see the Lightning Web component for Tableau visualization. I'll drag that over. I'm going to go into the field there, and I'm going to copy and paste and put that URL that I copied. I'm going to go ahead and hit return. And then once I do that, I want to give it a little bit more height to make the visualization pop a little bit. Go ahead and hit return. I'll save that and I'll come back. And now I have this information available to me in work.com so that anybody making these decisions can see this information, interact with it. If the information gets updated in Tableau, it'll automatically be updated here. I could certainly run the model again. I can run the data as I go through the model. And I really do have what I think is the best of all worlds, helping my business open back up. Okay, to close out, I really have just a couple of things I want you to take away from this presentation. The first is we would love for you to have a conversation with ourselves here at Salesforce, Tableau, Einstein, a conversation with your leadership, with those that curate and understand all your data inside your organization. But most of all, we want to help you. And so we would love for you to reach out to your account team, set up some time with us. Who knows, that meeting may actually find you on the other end of the Zoom meeting with me, and I'd love to meet you face to face. The next thing is we want you to get Tableau. If you don't have Tableau already, we make it super easy for you to get started with Tableau. You can download it and start using it with a 14-day trial. On top of that, if you'd like, you can use Tableau Public, which is really the YouTube of data visualization. Go up to Tableau Public, take a look. You'll see over 1 million plus. I think it's up to 2 million visualizations up there. A lot of resources about COVID. And it's a really great place for you to start your journey. And finally, we want you to be the data superhero of your company. Data is a very powerful thing. And when we use it and we use it properly, we can change the course of history. We can change the course of our company's success. We can change the course of our careers. So many people have literally made a career out of being a data superhero. And I think that's a great place for you to think about and start. And then most of all, we want to say thank you. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for spending just a few minutes with me. And I look forward to talking to you soon, really soon. Thanks a lot.